The DBS Superleggera is the third new Aston Martin in 3 years. It's the third instalment in the company's bold, successful new era. And it's based on the same platform as the Vantage and the DB11, both of which you'll know all about because you've watched our most excellent videos on them, and I dare say you were good enough to like and subscribe when you did. Is it just another Aston? Haven't we seen this all before? Are we getting a bit bored now? Are we? Well, no. No, I'm not. I'm going to put this out there, early doors. I think this might be the best of the bunch. I think it might be the best car Aston Martin makes, maybe. Superleggera means very light, as students of Italian and Aston Martins will already know. It's more a generic tag than an accurate description in the DBS's case, because this is ostensibly a DB11 chassis with wider tracks, retuned suspension, more power, and 85% carbon fibre panels, so it weighs just under 1,700 kilos dry. Like the smaller, sportier Vantage, it has a transaxle gearbox. Unlike it, it has rubber-isolated rear suspension and a conventional limited-slip diff. And this is the main event, the headline act, Aston's 5.2 litre twin-turbocharged V12 engine producing 715 brake horsepower and some 660-something pound-foot of torque. Aston's particularly chuffed about the torque part because it beats the Ferrari 812 Superfast, which is what they consider to be the car's only true rival, by, well, quite a lot. It makes this car capable of 60 miles an hour from rest in 3.3 seconds and 100 miles an hour in less than 6.5. There are some cars the world just needs, aren't there? Cars that we would be a lesser place without. I don't really care how many Jaguar E-Paces or AMG GT4s we have or don't have, as long as Volkswagen still makes a Golf and BMW still make a 3 Series and there's still a Mercedes S-Class and a Porsche 911, etc. And I think the big, powerful, beautiful, long-striding, involving Aston Martin Super GT is one of those cars. I think the world would be a poorer place without it, and Aston is duty-bound to make one. It feels very much like the company's returning to home territory here. It's doing what it does best, and it's done it really well. You know, I really liked the Vanquish and the original Vanquish before it, and the DBS that came along in the middle, but I don't think Aston has ever combined a sense of really effortless big speed and performance, perfectly judged handling dynamism and cruising comfort, and a really wonderful sense of old school driver appeal. It's never done all of those three things quite as successfully as it has now. So what difference does 715 of Her Majesty's horsepower make to a big Aston? Well, plenty, but I guess the torque is even more transformative. So this car is something like 664 pound-foot of torque from 1800 RPM. So it really hauls from low revs in high gears on the Autobahn and on the motorway in a way that makes it feel really effortless and rapid without really trying. The engine's great at high RPM too, because it's a big V12. It just revs all the way to 7 and it feels really elastic and it just keeps going and going as the needle rises. So you can either drive it like a lunatic, or you can drive it quickly without really putting much effort in, or you can just amble along very nicely. Sounds quite good, doesn't it? You can hear the sort of pops and bangs that they've engineered into the exhaust, make it sound a bit cheekier than DB11. It certainly does that. There are several driving modes, and if you want to turn it up noise-wise, you just stick it in Sport or Sport Plus. If you want it to be nice and quiet, you can leave it in GT. So the dampers, the suspension has 3 modes as well: GT, Sport, Sport Plus. I tend to prefer the car's ride and handling compromise just left with the dampers in GT because it's a big Aston, and I love the way these cars have always felt compliant and friendly and a bit gentle, but also they go like stink, and they're great around corners. They're just so involving, really nicely balanced, really indulgent, flattering cars. This one, more so than any I can remember. I mean, it just steers so nicely. It's lovely weight, perfect pace matched to it in the steering, really clear sense of load through the front wheels. And the car, just the rear axle feels so progressive and so friendly when you start to really lean on it. Maybe move it around a bit. There's a wonderful old school progressive feel to the rear axle and the way it just gently picks up a little bit of a drift angle or allows you to put a bit more on if you fancy it. I think the rear axle on this car is a lot more predictable than I found the Vantage to be. I think it's all the better for having an old school mechanical slippy diff because it's more predictable and it just lets you have a little bit of fun rather than loads and loads, which is basically what the Vantage wants to do all the time. It just wants massive, massive angles, whereas this, it feels cultured, it feels friendly, it feels really lovely. So what's not to like? Well, I think the cabin could be an issue for one or two people. I think given that Aston gave the Vantage more of a unique cabin, and that's a £120-something thousand car, I think people might get in this £225,000 car and wonder why it feels like a DB11 with some extra trim. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the cabin's fine, but if you're expecting something special, you're not going to get it. I also think if you take issue with Aston's use of Mercedes switchgear in the DB11, obviously you're going to have the same problem here because it's largely the same cabin. Otherwise, it's such a hard car to fault dynamically. The transmission maybe is a bit clunky at times. It's this new 8-speed ZF transmission, which it's mounted at the back, and it's a new transmission because the ones on Vantage and DB11 won't handle the torque of this car. Feels a little bit rough and ready at times, and some of the shifts are a bit clunky and slow, a little bit, but listen, most of the time you drive it, it is absolutely fine. But genuinely, in all other respects, I can't find fault with this car to drive. I think it feels as if Aston's really getting to grips now with all of the technology in its 21st century toolkit. This car handles really well, steers really well, rides really sweetly. The brake pedal feels really good. It feels like it's finished to a really high standard dynamically. I'm going to come over all Carly Simon because nobody does it better, do they? Nobody makes a big, beautiful, enticing coupe like this anywhere near as well as Aston does. It's a car the world needs, and I'd happily drive it until the wheels came off.